All right, everyone, get ready for a wild ride because today we're going deep into some fascinating territory. Donald Trump's vision for America during his term.
Sounds interesting.
And here's the kicker, the source material we're using, it's like super tongue-in-cheek, almost satirical.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they're trying to explain these serious policies with a wink and a nudge.
I see. So it's going to be fun unpacking this.
It definitely will be. We'll uncover the core of this vision, everything from his economic plans, how he saw national security, and even a surprise appearance by, get this, Elon Musk.
Wow, Elon Musk. That's unexpected. Okay, I'm intrigued.
All right, let's jump right in. First up, the economy. The source makes it crystal clear that Trump's economic vision was all about more money in your pocket, primarily through tax cuts and deregulation.
Ah, yes, the classic playbook.
Right. But is it really that simple? I mean, can you just slash taxes and cut regulations and expect everything to magically fall into place?
Well, tax cuts can definitely provide a short-term boost to the economy. But you also have to think about the long-term implications. They can shrink government revenue, which impacts funding for important things, like social programs and infrastructure.
Okay, so less money for schools, roads, and programs that help people. That's a significant trade-off.
It is. And when it comes to deregulation, it's not always a clear-cut win. Less red tape sounds great for businesses, but it could also mean fewer protections for consumers and the environment.
That's a good point. So it's like a balancing act, right? More freedom for businesses, potentially more risk for everyone else. The source uses this interesting phrase, let the people decide. What does that even mean in practice?
It seems to suggest a shift towards a more free market system. Imagine a world where businesses operate with fewer rules and people have more economic freedom. Sounds appealing, right?
It does on the surface.
But then you have to ask, who steps in if things go wrong? Who provides a safety net if someone falls through the cracks?
It raises all these questions about social safety nets and consumer protections, especially for those who might be left behind in a pure free market environment.
Exactly. Those are important considerations.
Okay, let's switch gears to national security. The source doesn't shy away from vivid imagery here, talking about strong borders.
Ah, yes. The build-a-wall rhetoric.
Exactly. It makes you think of a wall around the whole country, Fortress America. This strong border imagery is definitely a central part of this vision, and it seems to tie in with a specific focus on controlling who gets in. The source specifically mentions prioritizing skilled legal immigrants.
Interesting. So rather than focusing on family ties or humanitarian needs, the emphasis shifts to selecting immigrants based on their potential economic contributions.
It seems that way. Proponents of this approach argue that it protects domestic jobs, keeps the economy competitive, and ensures a more controlled flow of immigration. But what about the human side of things?
Right. Opponents raise concerns about potential discrimination and the impact on families. And it also raises questions about the message we're sending to the world when we prioritize economic gain over humanitarian considerations.
It's a complex issue with a lot of ethical and moral dimensions.
Indeed, it's a delicate balancing act between economic priorities and human compassion.
Okay, let's move on to a topic that's always a hot-button issue, healthcare. The source uses this analogy of a healthcare buffet to describe Trump's plan. Lower prices, more choices, sounds pretty appealing.
The concept is intriguing. It's about promoting free market healthcare reform. The idea is more competition, fewer regulations, and that theoretically leads to lower costs and better quality. Imagine a healthcare system where you could choose from a menu of providers and insurance options, tailored to your specific needs.
So instead of a one-size-fits-all government program, you get to pick and choose.
Exactly.
But is it really realistic to expect more options and lower prices with less government involvement? I mean, that sounds a bit too good to be true, doesn't it?
That's the million-dollar question. Critics of this approach argue that it could destabilize the market, leaving some folks without access to affordable care. There are also concerns about pre-existing conditions. Would insurance companies be allowed to deny coverage or charge exorbitant rates based on someone's health history?
That would be a major concern. It seems like this approach could potentially create a healthcare system that benefits those who are already healthy and wealthy while leaving others behind.
It's definitely a concern worth considering.
Okay, what about energy? The source talks about energy independence, and here's where it gets interesting. It mentions both increased oil production and the expanded wind energy. So which is it? Are we drilling like crazy or building wind turbines everywhere?
It seems like the goal was to do both. The vision was to make America energy self-sufficient. Imagine a world where we're not reliant on foreign oil, where our energy needs are met by our own resources. This could have a significant impact on everything from your monthly energy bill to international trade relationships.
That sounds pretty ambitious, but, and this is a big but, relying heavily on domestic oil production for energy independence, that comes with environmental consequences, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're talking about fossil fuels here, which are a major contributor to climate change.
So how do you balance the desire for energy independence with the need to protect the environment? Are we just swapping dependence on foreign oil for dependence on our own, potentially at the expense of the planet?
That's the dilemma. It's a tough one, with no easy answers. We're essentially weighing short-term economic gains in energy security against the long-term health of the planet.
It's a classic trade-off. Short-term gains versus long-term sustainability. Okay, let's move on to foreign policy. The source describes Trump's America First approach as this high-stakes game of deal or no deal. Everything's a negotiation, and America's interests come first, no matter what.
It's a bold approach, prioritizing securing advantageous deals for the U.S. Imagine a tough negotiator at a global bargaining table, always looking out for America's best interests. While this might sound appealing to some, it could also strain relationships with our allies and potentially disrupt international cooperation.
So are we going it alone on the world stage? What happens to global issues that require collaborative efforts, like climate change or pandemics?
That's a key question. Can we really afford to alienate our allies and go it alone in an increasingly interconnected world? The America First approach, while assertive, could lead to more conflict and less cooperation.
It's a high-stakes gamble for sure.
It is, and the potential consequences are difficult to predict.
Okay, now for a topic that can get pretty heated, judges. The source paints this picture of Trump wanting judges who practically sleep with a copy of the Constitution under their pillow.
It's about appointing judges who adhere to a very specific legal philosophy, originalism. They believe in sticking to the original meaning and intent of the Constitution as it was written, rather than interpreting it through a modern lens.
So no room for evolving interpretations or considering how society has changed. It seems like a very strict, literal approach to the law.
Exactly. And by appointing judges with this specific philosophy, you're essentially shaping how laws are interpreted and enforced for decades to come. This isn't just about legal theory. It has real-world consequences for everything from social issues like abortion rights to economic policies like regulation.
It's about wielding influence over the judiciary to shape the future of the country.
Precisely. And that's why judicial appointments are often so contentious.
All right, last but not least, we have to talk about the elephant, or rather the rocket in the room, Elon Musk. According to the source, he's all in on this vision for America. We've got Tesla vehicles replacing gas guzzlers in government fleets, SpaceX technology being utilized for government projects, and who knows what else. It's like bringing Silicon Valley to Washington, D.C.
It's certainly a unique scenario. Imagine the potential for streamlining bureaucracy with cutting-edge technology, improving government efficiency through data analytics, and even utilizing private spaceflight capabilities for national security purposes. The possibilities are intriguing, but it also raises some important questions.
Like, what happens when a private individual with significant business interests holds such a prominent position in government? Can we be sure that decisions are being made in the best interests of the public and not for personal gain?
Right. How do we ensure transparency, accountability, and ethical decision-making when the lines between public and private interests are blurred? It's uncharted territory, and the potential consequences are difficult to predict.
It's a fascinating development, that's for sure. So we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. Promises of economic prosperity, a focus on national security, a healthcare system built on choice, a push for energy independence, a bold America First foreign policy, a shift in judicial philosophy, and the surprising role of Elon Musk in shaping this vision for America.
It's a lot to unpack. And as we've discussed, each element of this vision comes with its own set of potential benefits and drawbacks, its own set of difficult choices and unintended consequences. It's a reminder that there are no easy answers when it comes to governing a complex and diverse nation like the United States.
Well said.